Hi, I'm Rich Garling, one of the hosts for Democratic Defenders. Our goal in these podcasts is to help you to understand what is really going on with our government and to make sense of it all, to help you respond and hopefully make it run like it should. There's a moment in every democracy when a citizen looks at a familiar institution and feels something subtle but unmistakable. This isn't what we built it for. The rules are still there, the language is still there, the rights are still there, but the lived experience has shifted, not collapsed, not corrupted. It's just drifted. We tend to imagine the erosion of rights as something dramatic, a single law, a single ruling, a single moment when the lights go out. But in the American story, erosion is usually quieter. It happens in the margins, in the procedures, in the exceptions that become precedents, in the small adaptations that accumulate over decades. It happens when institutions evolve faster than the civic imagination that created them. Now, this series is about that drift. See, the architects of the early republic were obsessed with unintended consequences. They worried less about the first use of power and more about the 10th. They understood that laws are written for one moment, but live far beyond it. They knew emergencies justify extraordinary tools, and that those tools rarely disappear when the emergency does. So they built checks and balances, not because they distrusted government, but because they distrusted drift. And yet drift is exactly what we see today, not because they failed, but because no generation can fully anticipate the pressures that will reshape its institutions. The drift starts with good intentions. Laws passed to solve a real problem. A court decision clarifies a genuine ambiguity. A new administrative rule fills a gap no one foresaw. Each step's rational, each is defensible, each is small. But small steps accumulate. A definition widens. A procedure becomes more complex. A temporary measure becomes permanent. A tool designed for one purpose is repurposed for another. Oversight bodies fall behind the technology that they're meant to monitor. And citizens lose visibility into systems that once felt transparent. Nothing breaks, nothing explodes, nothing announces itself, but the system is no longer what it was. This is the heart of drift. The Constitution doesn't change, but the experience of constitutional rights does. A right can remain fully intact in theory while thinning out in practice. A process can remain lawful while becoming unrecognizable to the people it governs. A system can remain constitutional while drifting far from its original purpose. This isn't a story of villains, it's a story of complexity, incentives, emergencies, and institutional inertia. Drift hides in the procedural layers most citizens never encounter directly, in the classified court that oversees surveillance, in the administrative machinery of immigration, in the expanding rule book of election administration. These systems aren't malicious, they're adaptive. They grow to meet new threats, new technologies, and new expectations. But growth without recalibration creates distance between the laws written and the laws lived. And citizens feel that distance long before institutions acknowledge it. A republic doesn't survive because its laws are perfect. It survives because its citizens notice when the gap between purpose and practice widens. Drift is not destiny, it's a signal that a system needs recalibration, a signal that oversight must catch up, a signal that the original purpose needs to be re-anchored, a signal that the citizen must step back into the conversation. This series will explore three modern case studies of drift: FISA, immigration law, and election administration. Not to indict them, but to understand how well-intended systems evolve into something that their designers never imagined. Because if we can understand the architecture of drift, we can understand how to restore alignment between our institutions and the values they were built to protect. That, in the end, is the work of citizenship. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to today's episode. To read or view more of our content, please go to richgarling.substack.com or timbagwell.substack.com or see us on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram.